You know there's something powerful about coming to the end of yourself. I mean that moment when you realize all your strength, all your wisdom, all your hustle, it's just not enough. And that's not weakness, that's the beginning of wisdom, because that's the moment you open your mouth and say, Lord, be my help today, and not tomorrow. Not next week, today. See, we live in a world that tells us to handle it ourselves. Be strong. Don't let him see you sweat. Figure it out. And yeah, there's a place for working hard, for pushing through, for giving it your best. But let me tell you something. There's a whole lot of life that doesn't respond to how hard you push. Some doors don't open just because you knock harder. Some problems don't fix themselves just because you stay up all night worrying about them. And in those moments, you've got two choices. You can keep trying to carry the weight all on your own shoulders, or you can humble yourself enough to admit, God, I need you. I know that's not easy, especially for those of us who have been taught to be tough, to hold it all together, to keep smiling even when we're breaking inside. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is drop to your knees, because that's not a sign of giving up, that's a sign of surrender. And there's a big difference. See, surrender doesn't mean you stop fighting. It just means you stop fighting alone. It means you're inviting God into the battle. It means you're admitting, Lord, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the strength. I'm worn out. I'm stretched thin. I'm tired of pretending I've got it all figured out. I'm asking you be my help today. And when you pray like that, you're not just saying words into the air. You're talking to the God who sees every tear you've cried in secret. The God who knows the burdens you carry that nobody else knows about. The God who knows the thoughts that keep you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. The God who loves you enough to step right into your situation and say, I'm here. You know, I've learned something over the years. God doesn't always remove the storm. Sometimes he calms the storm, and sometimes he lets the storm rage but calms you. And either way, you'll find out you're not standing in that storm by yourself. That's why humility is so powerful, because humility unlocks God's help. The Bible says, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. Grace is the strength you didn't know you had. Grace is the favor that opens doors you couldn't open. Grace is the peace that doesn't make sense given what you're going through. Grace is the reason you're still standing when life tried to knock you down. But you can't receive that grace if you're busy trying to prove you don't need it. If you're too proud to admit, Lord, I can't do this on my own, you're blocking the very help that's trying to reach you. So I'm telling you today, there's no shame in asking God for help. There's no shame in admitting you're struggling. There's no shame in praying, Lord, I don't even know what to pray. All I know is I need you right now. God honors honesty. God honors humility. Sometimes we think our prayers have to be fancy. We think we've got to say all the right words, quote all the right verses, use all the right church language. Let me tell you, God hears the simple, desperate prayers of a humble heart. Lord, help me. Those 3 words can reach heaven faster than a sermon. Because it's not about how many words you say, it's about how real you're willing to be. And don't think for a second that God's too busy for you. Don't think your problems are too small or too big. He's the God who keeps the stars burning in the sky, and yet he knows how many hairs are on your head. He cares about what you're facing right now. He cares about the pressure you're under. He cares about the fears you try to hide from everybody else. So when you feel like you're drowning, when life feels too heavy, when you don't have the strength to take one more step, say it out loud. Lord, be my help today. Because sometimes the most powerful prayer you can pray is a prayer of humility and dependence, and God will meet you right there, right where you are. Would you like this even longer, shorter, more poetic, or including specific Bible references? Let me tell you something about storms. They don't ask for permission. They don't wait until you're ready. They show up unannounced. One day the sky is clear, everything is working, life is moving smooth, and then suddenly the clouds roll in. The phone rings with bad news. The doctor says something you weren't prepared to hear. Somebody walks out. Something falls apart. You don't even know where it came from, but now you're in it and it's dark, it's loud, it's shaking everything you thought was steady. That's what storms do. But I want you to know right there, in the middle of the chaos, God is not shaken. Not surprised, not scrambling to come up with a plan B. He's steady, he's present, and he's still in control. See, when the winds rise and the rain pounds and life starts tossing you back and forth, you need something, someone who doesn't move. That's God, a rock that doesn't shift even when everything else does, the kind of protector who doesn't clock out when things get hard. He doesn't flinch when the storm hits. He doesn't abandon the boat when it starts to sink. I've seen it. People I thought would stay, they left. People I thought I could lean on, they crumbled. But God stayed even when I wasn't at my best. Even when I was angry, confused, doubting, running in circles, He stayed. He didn't wait for me to get myself together. He protected me when I didn't even know I needed protecting. Some of you are in a storm right now, and it's real. I'm not here to minimize your pain. I'm not here to act like you just need to think positive and everything will be fine. No, some storms last longer than you thought they would. Some storms strip everything away. But listen, just because the storm is still raging doesn't mean God walked away. Just because you can't see the sun yet doesn't mean the sun stopped shining. Let me remind you, the presence of a storm is not the absence of God. In fact, some of your deepest encounters with Him will happen not in the sunshine, but in the storm. Because in the sunshine, it's easy to forget who's holding you up. But in the storm, that's when you discover how strong your foundation really is. That's when you find out you were never walking alone. When the disciples were out in that boat and the storm came, they panicked. They were afraid. They thought they were going down, and do you know where Jesus was? Asleep in the back of the boat. Now some people read that and get mad. How could He be sleeping while we're in a storm? But I read that and see peace. Because when the one who controls the storm is resting, you can rest too. God doesn't panic. He doesn't pace back and forth trying to figure out what to do. He speaks, and when He speaks, wind stops blowing, waves lie down, chaos surrenders. When God says, "Peace, be still," every part of that storm has to obey. And you might not have heard those words yet in your life, but they're coming. Keep holding on, because He hasn't left your boat. Even when you don't feel Him, He's there. Even when the lightning is flashing and the waves are crashing and you don't know which way is up, He's still holding you. You're still breathing. You're still here. That's proof enough. The enemy tried to take you out, but it didn't work. The storm tried to break you, but you're still standing. That's not luck. That's not your own strength. That's God, that's protection, that's grace, that's the hand of a father who watches over his children and says, "You might bend, but you won't break. You might fall, but I won't let you drown." And let me say this, just because you got soaked doesn't mean you failed. Just because the storm left some scars doesn't mean God wasn't with you. Some of the most powerful testimonies come from the people who walked through the fire and didn't lose their faith. Who went through the storm and still lifted their hands and said, "God, I trust you." So don't measure God's protection by how quiet your life is. Measure it by how steady your soul is. If He kept your mind from falling apart, that's protection. If He gave you peace when you had every reason to panic, that's protection. If He gave you the strength to stand when everything else was collapsing, that's protection. He doesn't always remove the storm. But He always covers you through it, every time, every single time. You may not have seen it then, but you'll look back and say, "If it hadn't been for the Lord who was on my side." You weren't alone. You were never alone. Would you like to continue with the next keynote in the same voice and tone? Sometimes the hardest thing in this life is to believe in what you can't see, to keep trusting when your eyes are telling you one story, but your faith is trying to tell you another. Because let's be real, it's easy to trust God when the bank account's full, when your health is strong, when doors are flying open left and right. But what about when the money runs out, when the diagnosis comes back bad, when the door you prayed for slams shut so hard it echoes in your soul? That's when real faith shows up. That's when you find out what you're really standing on, because feelings will lie to you. Circumstances will lie to you. Storms will try to convince you that God forgot about you. But let me tell you something. Just because you don't see him moving doesn't mean he's not working. Just because you feel alone doesn't mean you are. I've been there. I've been in moments where I'm crying out, God, where are you? Why can't I hear you? Why does it feel like my prayers are bouncing off the ceiling? And in those moments, everything in me wanted to quit, to stop believing, to stop hoping, because it felt like nothing was changing. Like God had packed up and left me to figure it out on my own, but here's what I've learned. God does some of his best work in silence. Just because heaven is quiet doesn't mean God isn't speaking. Sometimes he's working behind the scenes, rearranging pieces you don't even know exist. And if you'd quit too soon, you'd never see how it all comes together. See, we walk by faith, not by sight. That means sometimes your eyes will show you chaos, but your faith has to say, God is still in control. Your eyes might see closed doors, but your faith has to declare, if God closes one door, he'll open another one. Your eyes might see enemies all around you, but your faith has to whisper, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Faith is not about pretending everything's fine. Faith is standing in the middle of the storm, soaked and shivering and saying, I still believe. Faith is looking at an empty table and thanking God for the feast that's coming. Faith is praising him for the healing while the pain is still there. Faith is trusting the promise even when the process is breaking you. And I know it's hard. It's hard when the bills are piling up and you're wondering how you're going to keep the lights on. It's hard when the doctor's report knocks the breath out of your lungs. It's hard when people you love walk away and leave you carrying the pieces. But let me tell you, God has a way of showing up right when you're about to give up, right when you're convinced it's over. That's when he steps in and reminds you, I'm still God. Do you know how many times I thought it was over for me? Times when I thought, this is it, I'm done, there's no way out. But somehow God made a way. Somehow he opened doors I didn't even know were there. Somehow he sent the right person, the right word, the right opportunity at the right time. That's why I trust him even when I can't see him. Because I've got history with him. I've got scars that remind me of where I've been and who brought me through. And if he did it before, he'll do it again. So don't let what you see make you forget what God said. Don't let the silence convince you that God's not listening. Don't let your feelings tell you the story is over. Because God is still writing. And sometimes the best chapters come after the darkest nights. I know you're tired. I know you're weary. I know you're wondering how much longer you're supposed to hold on. But let me tell you, keep holding on. Because there's a breakthrough with your name on it. There's a victory on the other side of this fight. Trust isn't just believing God for what you want. Trust is believing God knows what's best, even when it doesn't look the way you pictured it. Sometimes he protects you from things you thought you wanted. Sometimes the no you're angry about is the very thing saving your life. And one day you'll look back and say, Lord, thank you for not giving me what I thought I needed. So today, I'm choosing to trust him. Not because I see how it's all going to work out, not because I feel strong every moment, but because I know who he is. I know He's faithful. I know He's good. I know He's never failed me yet, and He's not about to start now. So even when my eyes see nothing changing, even when my heart is heavy, even when the storm is raging, I will trust beyond what I see and what I feel. Because my God is still God, and that's enough for me. You know, sometimes all you've got left is hope. And let me tell you, that's enough. Because hope will keep you standing when your knees are shaking. Hope will keep your eyes lifted when everything around you is telling you to hang your head. Hope whispers, keep going, even when your mind is screaming, it's over. And the reason I have hope for tomorrow is because I've seen God's faithfulness today. See, faithfulness isn't some fancy church word to me. It's real, it's personal, it's the reason I'm still breathing, the reason I'm still standing, the reason I've made it through things I thought would surely break me. There were days I thought I'd never see the sun come up again, days I thought the weight on my shoulders would crush me. Nights I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how in the world I was going to keep going, but even in those moments somehow God showed up. Not always in the way I expected, not always in big, dramatic miracles, but in quiet ways, in small mercies. In just enough strength to get through the next hour. Sometimes it was a phone call I didn't expect. Sometimes it was a stranger's kindness. Sometimes it was just the feeling of peace washing over me when everything else was chaos. And I knew that was God. That's why I can't help but look forward to tomorrow, not because I know what tomorrow holds. I don't, none of us do, but I know the one who holds tomorrow. And if He carried me through yesterday, and He's carrying me through today, I've got no reason to doubt He'll carry me through whatever comes next. Life has taught me that storms don't last forever. The clouds roll back, the rain stops falling. And even if the storm leaves some scars, I've learned those scars tell a story that says, I survived, God kept me, I'm still here. I've learned that God's faithfulness isn't just about the big things. Yes, He can open prison doors. Yes, He can heal sickness. Yes, He can make impossible things possible. But sometimes His faithfulness shows up in the small stuff. Waking up in the morning when you thought you couldn't, finding the courage to try again when you'd rather quit. Smiling even with tears in your eyes, that's God's faithfulness too, and the more I look back over my life, the more I see it. Moments where I thought God was silent, He was working. Times I thought He was late, He was right on time. Doors that closed that I cried over, He was protecting me from things I couldn't see. People who left my life that I thought I couldn't live without, He made space for better people to come in. So now, even when I'm facing something new, something uncertain, something bigger than me, I remind myself, this isn't the first time I've been afraid. It's not the first time I've faced a mountain I couldn't move, and every single time God has come through. Maybe not in the way I imagined, maybe not on my timeline, but He's never failed me yet. Hope for tomorrow doesn't mean pretending everything's perfect today. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain or denying your reality. It means you look that pain in the face and say, you will not have the final word. It means you're honest enough to admit I'm struggling, but faithful enough to add, but I believe God is still good. Sometimes you've got to preach to yourself. I do it all the time. When fear starts talking, when doubt starts creeping in, when the enemy tries to tell me it's over, I remind myself, God has been faithful. He's not about to stop now. I list the things He's already done. I remind myself of the nights I didn't think I'd survive but did. I remind myself of the prayers I thought would never be answered but were. Hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is built on evidence, and my evidence is my history with God. I've got a track record with Him. And because of what He's done before, I know I can trust Him with what's coming next. So no matter how dark it gets, I keep looking forward. I keep expecting good things. I keep believing that the same God who helped me take my first breath today is going to help me take the next one tomorrow. And if he's been faithful for me, he'll be faithful for you too, because if you're still here, that means God's not finished writing your story. And there's more ahead than you can even imagine. Would you like all 4 parts woven into a single speech, or kept as separate sections like this? So here's what I want you to hold on to today. You don't have to face this life alone. You don't have to carry the weight of every storm on your own shoulders. You don't have to pretend you're strong every second of every day. It's okay to fall to your knees and say, Lord, be my help today, because that's not weakness, that's wisdom. God is your steadfast protector. He's the one who stands firm when everything else is shaking. He's the calm in the middle of chaos. He's the shelter in the pouring rain, and even when the storm doesn't stop right away, he will carry you through it. Trust him beyond what you see, beyond what you feel, because your feelings will tell you it's hopeless, but your faith will remind you God is still working. Your eyes might see obstacles, but your faith sees miracles in the making, and no matter how heavy today feels, you can have hope for tomorrow. Because the same God who's been faithful to you before, he hasn't changed. He's still writing your story. He's still opening doors. He's still making ways where there seem to be none. So don't quit. Don't give up. Lift your head, square your shoulders, and say it out loud even if your voice shakes. Lord, be my help today. I know you will carry me through every storm, because you've got a God who loves you. A God who fights for you. A God who will never leave you nor forsake you. And as long as he's on your side, the storm doesn't stand a chance.